Welcome to the Joe Show. I'm your host, Joseph Decker. This is take two. Kind of the titles took a little bit to get updated, but we're good to go now, man. I want to appreciate everybody for the recent support and love that everybody showed to the show. This is 5 shows in 10 days. Been really trying to pump out content, not just because Kentucky high school basketball is kind of crazy, chaotic, having a lot of things going on right now, but more importantly, we're leading into one of the biggest events, not just in Kentucky, but statewide, not even just statewide, countrywide. I've talked to so many coaches these last few days, getting them lists, talking to them about top talents. But this is something that we have coaches from all around the country coming to, all around everywhere. So this is just such a big deal, not just to the people of Kentucky, because we really do embrace this event with it being moved to Lexington Catholic this year, formerly at Collins. But this is just a great place. Lots of people get to connect, talk to each other, see each other. A coach in Ashland like Coach Bonner getting to see maybe Coach Perry in Lyon County isn't two guys who get to meet up and talk all the time. So it's just really good for the community, for the fan base in Kentucky. So many people get to move around, see each other. You're getting to go to all the gyms in that city and just watch talent after talent after talent. So it's a lot of fun. I'm really excited today to talk to Coach Josh Kays of Taylor County. They're going to be a team you have to see in the event. So I'm really excited to talk to him about that, talk to about all things Taylor County basketball, because Taylor County, man, they've been red hot recently, looking like one of the top teams in the 5th region. I know Josh Kays is excited. His team looks really good. He's got a lot of talent on that roster. But like I said, man, Kentucky basketball right now is in a phenomenal space. It's in a phenomenal place. A lot of things going on, a lot of things happening. But right now, man, if you're a Kentucky high school basketball fan, if you're one of those people who buy a seat right when the tickets come out to the state tournament, you are happy, you are electric, you are excited, and you're ready to see what happens this season. But let's go ahead and talk about our sponsors real quick. I want to thank everybody who sponsors the show and makes it special. I want to start out with our show sponsor, Clark Agritech Applicators. That is Cooper Clark of Edmonson County, Kentucky. Cooper Clark does spraying field work for farmers. He's the farmer's right-hand man, the work he does. He sprays chemicals, mainly in the 3rd and 4th region, does a lot of work in Bowling Green, does a lot of work in Butler County, Morgantown, and especially Edmonson County. So give a good call to Cooper Clark. Cooper's another young entrepreneur. He's only 19 years old. So seeing the work that he does despite his young age and the things he's able to do is really, really, really inspiring to me, myself, and everybody around. And more importantly, he's able to help a lot of people. And I think that's a big time, especially in today's era, because we're losing more and more people like that every day. But really appreciate Cooper Clark for sponsoring today's show and being our show sponsor. Grayville Funeral Home, based out of Edmonson County, Kentucky. Roy Grayville and Grayville Funeral Home has been our longest tenured sponsor. They've been with us for over a year. Roy Grayville is just a phenomenal person. What makes Roy so special is that he loves sports, but he loves helping people. So he's always out for the community and the people around us. He does really good, affordable work. When you get a situation like that in the funeral realm, going with the death in your family, you never want to, one, deal with that, and two, if you do deal with it, you got to make it easy. You need somebody there with you who can make it not just affordable, but also someone there with compassion. And Roy embodies that. Roy is a phenomenal human being, and there's a reason he's had so much success in his career. So big shout out to Roy Grayville and Grayville Funeral Home for sponsoring today's show. I love that guy. He's a phenomenal person. United Country Real Estate and Auction LLC. That is Chris Grayville. Chris does a little bit of everything, man. He can sell you a home. He can do an auction. He really is just the all-around man. He's based here out of Edmonson County, Kentucky, in Bowling Green. But he's just a phenomenal talent. He's a phenomenal guy. His son has been on the show before, Wyatt Grayville. We love the Grayville and the Bates families here on the Joe Show. They're great people. And I really appreciate him for coming back and joining the sponsor list. I'd like to do some more work with him. And he's just a phenomenal guy. Sharing this to all of our groups real quick, guys. If you see my eyes pointed toward the floor, just making sure everybody can see this and tune in, sharing this all across social media. And then I want to talk about Stice Insurance Agency. That is Ryan Stice, based out of the 4th and 3rd region, Warren County and Edmonson County. I love having Sean a part of the team because I got to speak on a panel with Sean just a few weeks back. And Sean is a really smart guy. He's a really good person. And that's one thing I like to surround our sponsors with. Good people who's willing to help everybody, not just the rich, not just the poor. And that's what makes Ryan so special. Home, Auto Life, and business insurance. He does a lot of great work. He's based out of Edmonson County, but he's been expanded. He's in Bowling Green now. He's just a great, great talent. We had Lincoln Lockhart on here last week to promote his dad's business, Pelican Snowballs. Pelican Snowball might be the most famous sweet treat in the 3rd, 4th region area. Heck, it's expanded. People come to Bowling Green just for one. What they do at Pelican Snowball is phenomenal. They support local businesses as well. They also support a lot of local elementary schools and schools around the state. They go take trips there. They sell. They provide for kids who maybe can't afford record things, and they're just at a phenomenal business. Salem and Jill do a phenomenal job with that, based out of Bowling Green. They have 5 locations, I think, in Bowling Green. I think they have one in Glasgow as well, and they're always in Edmonson County. So big shout out to Pelican Snowball. And then we have the Road Ahead Trucking Podcast. This is a new sponsor, which is pretty cool to talk about, because when you think about it, having a podcast sponsor a podcast is pretty cool. I wanted to show them some love and shout them out. Truckers, they're guys who's on the road all the time. We have a lot of truckers and guys who's on the road all the time tuning into our podcast. Craig Bailey's one of the best, father of Deuce Bailey. And, they have a really good podcast. It's an interesting listen. They kind of keep you entertained the whole duration of the show. They talk about things that you kind of got to go through going through that situation, whether if it's driving, whether if it's parking, whether if it's on the road for long hours, making sure you're doing all the things right. It's kind of a cool podcast. It's like what we do, but if I was a 15-year veteran trucker and then maybe a new one was coming on, I was interviewing them, and that's just what makes them so special. And then we have a new sponsor on the board today, and that is H&W Dukes. I think everybody in the state of Kentucky knows about H&W Dukes. They do phenomenal work. They're the largest local owned sporting goods dealer in the state, and something even more cool to me is that they're one of the top Adidas dealers in the country, not just in the state, but in the country, all over the U.S. And they're family owned and operated and worked by. So that's just even cooler to see how it's family owned, the family's involved, and it's stayed family involved for so long. So I want to appreciate all of our sponsors, and especially H&W Dukes, for joining the show today. But yes, if you'd like to join the sponsor group, contact me through social media or my number, 270-597-7893. Probably shouldn't just plug that like that, but it's cool. But let's welcome on our guest. Let's go ahead and talk to my guy, Coach Josh Kays of Taylor County. He's been killing it this summer. He's one of my favorite coaches in the state of Kentucky. He was wearing some all-red shoes this week at Central Hardin Shootout. And, man, dude, I've told him since then, this guy has got some drip to him. I'm tired of seeing the suits and the bland brown church shoes. I want to see more people wear some cool Adidas kicks, and that's what Coach Josh was doing. Coach Josh Kays, what's up, man? Welcome to the show. How you been, my guy?
Good, man. Appreciate you having me.
Of course, dude. I had to shout out. I always got to pay my respects to a coach who can not just coach, but can also wear a pretty fire outfit, and that's what you do, man. I hear you do it on the Puma circuit as well. But, Coach, Taylor County has been a hot name recently, so kind of tell me about you guys in summer ball so far. You guys have been going to events, the WKU Team Camp, Central Hardin Shootout, not just playing, but winning games and competing. You went to Central Hardin Shootout, played deep into the tournament, same at WKU Team Camp. Tell us about this team you got around you and what's leading to all this success.
I just think it's unselfish play, man. I mean, they're all bought in. They're all one for another, right? And obviously, you've got to adapt and change, and we had to do that on the fly. When I got started coaching, I had one of my good friends tell me, don't play 25 games in the summer. You just wear yourself out, and guess what we're going to be at? 27. So I didn't listen too well, but it's been really good for us. WKU Team Camp's one of my favorite ones to go to. We actually got to host a couple of days this summer that we haven't got to do in the past, and that was really good. We had Barron County come in, Bethlehem, Central Hardin, Bardstown, Monroe County, Nelson County, Thomas Nelson. It was a really cool event. A lot of 5th Region teams, a lot of 19th District teams came down to play. And then right after that, we went to Western. And we started off with West Jessamine, who's got 3 or 4 really, really good players. They're going to be a heavy favorite in that region. Ended up grinding out the win there. I think you were there to see that. Yeah. Really low scoring, but we found a way to win. And then you go on, you play Grayson, you win that game, and I think we started feeling good a little bit about ourselves. Figuring out some things on the run, and just when you think you're figuring out things, you can wake up the next morning, you're down 20 at halftime to a team out of state, and we claw back and win that game. And then you go to Owensboro Catholic the next. We were down 21 with 15 minutes to go, and Bryce Vernon went on a heater like I've never seen before, and brought us back, and we ended up winning that one. And then you go play North Bullitt at the end of the 5 games. So we went 5-0. Then we've got to play Shelby Valley to start out the Saturday morning slate, and then we got Davies County on the main floor, which was a really good test for us. You know how good they are. I don't have to say anything about them. When we come back, we get some rest, and then we go to the Central Hardin event, which Tavon did a great job with that. I hope it sticks around because we had a really good time with that. Played Bardstown to start it out, moved on and got Warren Central. And I think if you've seen the 2 teams warm up, you were probably like, this ain't going to go real well. But again, our kids grinded it out and got the win. Moved on to play Central Hardin, who I have great respect for. Cam Hogan's a tremendous point guard in this region. Probably a sleeper to be region player of the year, in my opinion. And then we advanced to the championship game to play Fairdale. and we were had the ball with 9 seconds to go and turned it over, committed a foul, and we lost on a free throw. So super proud of my guys. The way we play, I mentioned it earlier, but I had to adjust things, and I'm not a huge X and O guy. I'm just me and my assistant coaches. We're just going to work on skill every day that we can, and we're just going to try to outskill you. And when you got a big man like Brighton Close in the middle that anchors everything, he is one of the he is literally maybe one of the best leaders I've ever been around, on and off the floor, and it's just been tremendous. And he's just picking defenses apart, finding our guards, and we're shooting the ball pretty well right now. So it's been a tremendous summer. We're up to 22 games, I think, right now. We'll end up with about 25 or 26, and can't be proud of our guys, man.
For sure, Coach. You kind of talk about Brighton Close being one of the best leaders you've had, kind of referring to, some of the guys you've had before. You spent a long period of time at Thomas Nelson. I say a long period, but really only 5 to 6 years. So you spent time being a head coach before, and you've dealt with a lot of players, with your assistant coach time at Taylor County. So you've got to see a lot of guys. Have you ever had a team that you've maybe had this young a talent? I mean, you look at your roster, you've got a lot of 27s, you've got 2 28s who you really have to rely on, and Cooper Stone and Bryce Vernon. Have you ever really had a team like this where you got so much young talent and you don't just have it, but you kind of got to weigh on it and rely on it sometimes to kind of get you through the games?
No, I haven't. When I started out at Thomas Nelson, we weren't very good. We were kind of in a rebuild mode. And I knew we had a good young group coming up from the area. And Braden Smith, Andrew Hogan, Torian King, those guys right there, Riley Brown, they kind of led the ship of getting us back to the region my last year there. But when I took over that job, Braden and that group, they were juniors. So I had been around, and Riley was coming in as a freshman with Lucas Downing and Will Coombs. They were coming in as freshmen, which was a really good group for us. But I haven't had to rely on 2 sophomore guards, to bring the ball up the floor. Lane Horde, who will be a junior, he's played tremendous this summer. And then you look at our 3 seniors, Brighton, Carter Wise, and Griffin Hines, who just started playing this week. We've been without him. He's been on vacation last year. He kind of wrote the ship for us at that point guard spot and played tremendously well. So we've got a good mix. But no, I haven't had to rely on a backcourt as young as we do with those 2.
Yeah. Coach, last year I would say I think everybody has to agree was a success. We see a lot of people do rankings grades. You go 23-7, you make the region tournament. So I know you got to feel excited with how that first year went, but you're dealing with some adversity recently. You've lost some pieces. You lose your top 2 leading scorers. So it's not a necessarily familiar team that you had last year. Cooper Stone's a guy who comes in. There's guys who's stepping up, playing more and more minutes. Like I said, you lost your 2 leading scorers. How have you dealt with that? Obviously you kind of got to deal with that in certain ways, on the floor, as a person off the floor. How have you dealt with that and stayed in a positive mindset and a positive attitude and still kept these guys to buy in?
No, just keep kids first. It's not about me. I've had my playing days. I've got into coaching to try to build lifelong relationships with kids. And that's one of the biggest things that I have going for me, I think, is, you go ask all my former players at Thomas Nelson, we still talk, we still do all that. In reality, things happen. You watch the college landscape, and there's kids going to 5 schools in 5 years or 4. It's just what it is right now. And but I know when I lace them up, when we lace them up and we go on, I'm standing over there, we're about to tip it up. Those 5 guys and those 4 or 5 guys that are on the bench are going to go through a wall for me. And I think that's what you've seen. They're gonna run through a wall. They feel like their backs are against the wall. And they feel like people are counting them out. So there's a little chip, and then when you get that chip and you mix it with talent, man, it's good. I don't ever make it about me. I don't post much, man. My thing is we work in silence. I'm not gonna post every day about practice clips and doing this and doing that. Like, that's not me. And at Taylor County, to be honest with you, man, there's no room to feel sorry for yourself. Everybody wants to beat you. Nobody's feeling sorry for you. We got the best facilities in the whole region. We've got the best athletic director, in my opinion, and Greg Oliver. So he leads his coaches to success, and there's no room for that. And it's not fair to my kids I have right now. They're there going to war for me every day. So I don't think there's any room to feel sorry for yourself. I've got one of the best jobs in this region. If I start feeling sorry for myself, there'll be somebody else in that chair. And I fully understand that. So it's just getting up and grinding every day, man. And those kids, they never want to leave the gym. They're always in there shooting. They're always doing something. The cool thing about Taylor County is we got to share so many athletes.
Yeah.
I've got more golfers than I've got football players on the basketball team.
Yeah.
Our golf team's one of the best in the state. And those guys go golfing before, and then they come in the gym. And I just share time with people, and if you've watched over the course of the year, what some of our sports teams have done, man. I mean, we've been in the state tournament for girls. Baseball made a run, softball made a run, wrestling, track and field. I mean, you name it. Taylor County's been in the fold of it. We had a great year last year, 23-7. It's amazing. Nobody thought we would do that either.
Yeah.
We played one of the best region games, in my opinion, in a long, long time. And I think people will be talking about that. And it came down to the last possession, right? So that's all you can hope for. We played a tremendous Greene County team, very well coached. But that electric atmosphere was something that our kids, both sides, deserved. So I'm blessed to be in the position I am. I started this as a volunteer 9-10 years ago, whenever it was, and never thought I'd be in a position to lead one of the longest history. We got history everywhere, Taylor County, and I'm leading that charge. So I'm extremely grateful. Love our kids. Wouldn't trade them for the world, and we're just going to continue to battle every day.
For sure, Coach. You're not just coaching this year on the high school circuit. You're also coaching on the AAU circuit. You're coaching with Kentucky Basketball Club, the only shoe circuit team on the national level at Kentucky. So it's got to mean something a lot to you. You're coaching the 15U team. You get to coach one of your guys, Cooper Stone, and Bryce Vernon as well. Why did you take that position? Why did you want to coach that team? Why did you take that job? How has it been so far? How do you feel about it? And kind of tell us in July, when everything starts rolling up again with AAU, where we can catch you guys and how you guys feel going into those live periods and kind of the playoffs of AAU.
Mays is my guy, man. He's one of my guys, one of my best friends. I've been with him since the Manimal days. We went from Manimal to Phenom to, Central Kentucky last year, and we had this same core. That's the cool part about it is I'm taking fifth region kids, man. Like we've got one kid that's from Mel, but the rest of them are fifth region guys. I mean, when we were at Central Hardin, 6 of them were playing on the same court. That I've always stuck with Mays. He's always treated me well. We're actually family. I don't know if anybody knows, but we're actually family. So, it's been good. It's been good. The thing about AAUs, you've got we had Austin Sear starting out. Who's a tremendous basketball player. And he went to the Nike circuit. So we had, like I'm doing right now, you got to figure it out and plug and play, but we're not lacking the talent. And to believe it or not, man, the Puma circuit is actually pretty good. We played one of the best teams that I ever coached against in Treyman Elite out of Florida, out in Wichita. And man, they've got dudes sitting on their bench with Division I offers as freshmen. So I don't see anybody beating them in the Puma ranks. They're tremendous, but it's just a blessing to be able to have a shoe team. And that's really ultimately what we worked for, right? Mays had it before, but I've never got to coach on the shoe circuit, and it's been a good change of pace. Great venues. Puma puts a ton of stock in their 17s, right? So it's been really good for those guys. And when we get done, we go watch them play because they got some fifth region dudes. Jalen Crangay, former fifth region guy. But it's been really cool. And when after dead period, we go to Richmond, Virginia. I think our group is ranked 13th in the country right now. We played Treyman Elite, and we played another team that was West Virginia Gold that was very good, lost by 2 to them, and it kind of dropped us a little bit. So, we're 13. We got to win 2 or 3 games to go to advance to Bryan, Texas the next weekend. And then if that don't happen, we'll probably just end up in Louisville playing at the grassroots because there'll be coaches there as well. And the landscape has changed, man. You know that. I mean, not a ton of people are coming to watch 15s right now. So if we can stay home and, if that's the worst case scenario, then I'm good with it, right? So, I say people aren't coming to watch 15s, but, there's a Cumberland University is actually coming to watch Bryce Vernon up there in Lexington this weekend. So I'm excited about that, it's been really good, really cool, with my team, especially because it's all fifth region guys, for one. So it's been very humbling to be on that, and then to grow like we have. It's been really cool.
You mentioned him a few times. We've already talked about him a few times. So we got to bring him up. It's Bryce Vernon. When you watch Bryce Vernon, he's a lanky, tall guard. A lot of people might think he's a wing, a forward. He doesn't handle the ball. But, one thing I was really excited to see him at Central Hardin was how he could handle the ball, how he could play at his style of play. And I think I got to see, this guy's not a wing. This guy's a guard. He can put the ball on the floor, left-hand, right-handed. That's what I really like about him. He reminds me so much of a guy a little older than him, Caden Gaither at Collins, son of Chris Gaither. They're 2 lefties. They play similar ways. But the thing about Bryce Vernon And I think I heard it 100 times at Central Hardin. Guard the shooter. You know, the kid can shoot the lights out of the ball from anywhere. I think he shot a few volleyball lines and they went in. But having a young talent, we're going to talk about Cooper Stone here in a second. But having a guy like Bryce Vernon has got to be such a guy, someone you can lean on. But he's got to take a relief off your shoulders when you see he hits some of those shots that just should not go in. Hits a contested three. Just he has such a good all around game. And I think a lot of people label him as a shooter. But when you see him, he kind of expands his game. You know, kind of tell me about Bryce Vernon, how impactful he is to your team, and to see guys like this in our state, this talented at such a young age, just kind of shows the position we're in. Talk to me about Bryce Vernon, Coach.
I mean, he's, I've got so much confidence in him. We were playing Central Hardin, and of course, me and Tavon are really good friends. And we were in overtime, and he shot that three, and he was wide open. I just went to start shaking Tavon's hand, just because I knew it was going in. But he puts the work in, man. I mean, he's always in the gym. He challenges me sometimes now too. Don't get it twisted. I mean, he is a 16-year-old kid with a 40-year-old brain that is a super intelligent basketball player. I mean, it comes from a whole family tree of coaching.
Yeah.
He knows that. He picks apart the defenses. He knows that, so he's a joy to coach, and, but he makes other people better too. What we were talking about today, we played PRP, and this is the first week without Brighton Close. He's going to do his official visit to Louisville, and for football. And coming out, we had to adjust some things, and Carter Wise and Lane Horde had our first 15 points, right? So much attention was on the other two that those guys were just hitting threes, going in for layups, so hitting jump shots. So I want, Lane and Carter have grown this summer to what we need them to be. But getting back to Bryce, like, I don't know how people leave him open, man. I just, we have some really good sets. Coach Guffey does a very good job with some of our sets, getting him open. And he's a tremendous basketball player that I can't wait to see grow for the next 2-3 years. He gets a 6'6", that's a major problem. I'm not talking about high school. I'm talking about he's going to advance into college. So, he'll get to pick. I truly believe that. I think he'll get to pick between, does he want to go play golf or does he want to play basketball? Because he's just a good golfer. But just a tremendous kid, great family. Some of my favorite people, so he don't have any other choice but to be good because of the line of, the legends of coaching in his family. So,
yeah. You kind of mentioned, you got more golfers on your team than football players, and then your best football player is going to play at Louisville in the ACC, a top 25 team. So it kind of shows just how much Taylor County has talent-wise in their athletes. But, that can sometimes, sometimes you hear that, and it can kind of hurt coaches. I talked to Tim Riley 1,000 times, and, he has had to deal with it at Owensboro Catholic. Now he goes to Christian Academy. Sometimes in these locations where there's so many good athletes, you got to deal with them playing two sports. You've had guys who played football, baseball. Baseball is another big time Taylor County sport. Golf. How do you adjust to dual sport athletes, and maybe one or two of them coming into the year maybe a little banged up, maybe coming into the year tired, maybe come to practice later than the only basketball players? How do you deal with dual sport athletes, and what's your thoughts on it?
I don't think we need to be in the position in today's world if we're not going to share athletes, right? So I think we do a tremendous job at Taylor County. That's actually one of the things they tell us in the coaches interview is, like, we're going to share athletes. We're 4A school, and we don't have 700-800 people to pick from, so we're going to share athletes. And it kind of hurt, last year Brighton come in with the torn labrum, right? And he played, doctor told him go get surgery immediately week 1. And he's like, no, I'm playing as long as I can. And he kept getting pushed back. And his last game was right before Christmas, so I'm all about sharing the kids, man. I mean, I share them, and our coaches at Taylor County share them. So, and sometimes, we may be playing our first game this year without Brighton and a couple of those other guys, Jalen Anderson, who's given us some huge minutes as a freshman this year in the summer, because I fully expect them to make a full deep playoff run, So it's just part of it, man. If your ego gets in the way of sharing kids, you don't need to be in the seat. So I'm all for it, and it gets them away from me for a little bit, right? Like, and I say that in a way of they don't hear my voice the whole time. So, or my assistants. So you've got to share athletes in today's world, and, and it benefits us, those, our football staff does a tremendous job of weightlifting every day, and our guys, in the off season will go with them and lift, the guys that aren't playing other sports. So, it'll be big for them. Taylor County's got it set up where our 7 period does that, they can go to lift during school and things like that. So, a lot of benefits to sharing athletes at Taylor County.
We talked a little bit about losing pieces. So obviously, when you lose pieces, other guys have to step up. We talked about a guy like Lane Horn, averaged 3 points a game last year. If you've watched Taylor County this summer, he's been one of the top shooters statewide. He's a knockdown. You can't leave him open. He's taking guys off the dribble, burst, and going to the lane, and he's expanding his game. He's also hitting a lot of shots. And if you say, well, he only averaged 2.8 points last year, he's stepping up and he's taking advantage of his moment. How do you keep guys to stay playing basketball and to still buy in, even when maybe they're not getting the most playing time? Maybe they're not seeing the floor very much. For instance, I'm saying, what if a guy only played 2 minutes a game last year, came in when you guys were up 20, now he's got a big role? And I'm not saying that's lame, but I'm just saying, in general coaching, how do you convince and keep those guys to stay in the program, keep coming to practice every day, and still buying into your coaching, the atmosphere around
the kids, man, just how well our families are, that comes from at home, right? So if they're going home and their dads are saying, oh, Coach K's don't know what he's talking about, he's only playing you 2 minutes a game, we're leaving, we're doing this, we're doing that, he's a horrible coach, they start buying into that, right? Like, that's what they hear. That's not what we have. So Lane has been, I think Lane, I went through some of the stats today before I got on the show with you. And after today, I think he's averaging about 16 this summer. He's got a big, wide frame. He's putting the ball in the basket. His thing before was he would get to the rim, but he would miss the layup, right? So the speed had to slow down for him, and it's done that. Today, he come out and hit a 3, 2 layups right in a row, and then, Carter Wise come in and hit a couple. And that's what I was talking about. They had our first 15. And so they've really stepped up. And I think with departures, sometimes, man, kids feel a little bit more free, right? Last year, starting lineup, like, we had 2 of the best players in the 5th region. And then we had Kobe Colvin, who was a senior that was a tremendous glue guy for us. And then obviously Bryce when he came back from injury, and Lane started a couple of those games, and it was sometimes most of the time the 6th man. So he's been in some varsity games before, big time varsity games, and just like Griffin Hines, he just had to get his chance last year. That was on me. I've told him that a million times. We had some uncertainty at point guard. Some things happened, and and about Christmas time, he took the reins of it, and really helped us through those last 2 months of orchestrating the offense and handling the basketball. So super proud of all of those guys that I just mentioned. And another one we haven't hit on, but you've seen a little bit this past week was Jalen Anderson. I know I hit on him earlier, but he is a tremendous defender, super athletic, tremendous kid. So we're building depth. After dead period, we'll give them some time off because, like I said, I've got a ton of golfers that go right into it. But about August, we'll be lifting weights and doing skill work again. So I'm excited for those guys. We're going to try to outskill people, and all of them have bought into it, but it starts at home. And the parents trust me. Now, there's been some tough conversations, that as a head coach. But like I've told them, like, I want every kid to shoot every shot and make every basket. It just don't happen. This is the hardest sport to play in. You got 5 guys on the floor at a time. And, you've really got to edge your way out. But I'm super proud of those guys, the way they've handled adversity, the way they've put their backs against the wall and said, we're going to roll with you and let's go. So super proud of them, ready to see them take that next step because ultimately they have no other choice. They have to.
Yeah, Coach, the 5th region I know means a lot to you, and that's the next question. What does the 5th region mean to you, not just as a coach, but as a person? You mentioned your son, I think, goes to Bardstown. You said, they're playing basketball. You're a Bardstown. You're formerly from Bardstown. You talked about Nelson County before we got on here. So what does the 5th region mean to Coach Josh Kays, not just as a coach, but as a person? And how has this region treated you over the years, growing up in it, playing sports in it, and now coaching it?
Playing at Nelson, I played under Artie Braden, legendary coach. Hated him while I played for him, but love him now because, I get it. We grow up and we mature. 5th region's home to me. I think it's the best region year in, year out most of the time, sometimes the deepest, and we've always had good talent here. It's home to me. Like you said, I started at Thomas Nelson. They gave me my first shot at this as an assistant. And then, the biggest the best lesson I've ever learned was we had a job opening year 1 of me being an assistant. So I went for the job, obviously, didn't get it. I had a good friend of mine whose dad was on the board on the hiring committee. And he said, Josh, moving 1 seat down this early in your career could be detrimental. Of course, I was upset at the time, but, I got 3 more years of being an assistant under Coach Tolliver, rest his soul. But it was great. It was great for me to learn the game. I think you got to sit and watch and see what people do and that you want to take. And obviously some what you don't want to do. You make your own way about it. But man, when I took over at Thomas Nelson, I'd had that group for 4 or 5 years, and we had so much fun. Sometimes memories pop up on my Facebook of how crowded that gym was because we were so fun to watch. Man, we had tremendous basketball players. We got to the district championship against Bardstown, and there wasn't that. There's the bottom bow at Thomas Nelson, and then there's the top part, and there was not a seat left. People were hanging off the rails. And I owe them a great deal because they gave me my first shot at this. So, Coach Stallworth will get it back to there. They've got a good team again coming up, and I'm excited for them. But Nelson County just hired Jordan Gilbert, who we talked about earlier. I mean, he's going to do a tremendous job. He's already made strides getting them back to what it was back in the 2007 to 2010 era where I was at, and even before that, we had some tremendous teams there, some region runner-up teams. So I'm excited for it. Obviously Bardstown with one of my best friends in the world, Boo Burr, who does a tremendous job year in, year out. Bethlehem, Brad Greenwell had a huge run a couple years ago, and the tournament knocked us off a couple years ago. And then Stevie Woodson always does a tremendous job at Washington County. So, 5th region, 19th district, 20th district, that's my home. And I think the 20th district this year, man, it's going to be solid again. I don't think you could ever just roll the ball out and say, well, they're beating them. Marion County's got a ton of pieces back. Coach Thomas does a great job there. Campbellsville's got a ton of pieces back. That can play some basketball. Epps has always got them playing really well. And then with Brangers down at Adair County, with the addition that they got, it's a big deal. And they're going to be right back in the fold with Gilbert there, who's one of my favorite players to watch. And, Brangers was actually my assistant at Thomas Nelson for a little bit. So, I knew him. I know he knows the game. He studies it. He's going to do well down there. So I don't, then you go to the Hardin County district, right? Like always crazy, so LaRue's always a household name in this region. Green coming off the year that they had last year with Coach Herb down there. They'll do a tremendous job. Hart County, I've seen them at Central Hardin. Shoulders kid can play, man. He's good. So you can't overtake them. And obviously, Caverna, who everybody's chasing right now. So, it's going to be another good year. I've heard people say it's down. I don't agree with that, man. I there's a ton of players here that, in any given night you can get beat. So I think it's going to be another really good year in the 5th region, which I always think is the best region in the state.
For sure. I wanted to talk about, the talent, coaches, fans, things like that. And you kind of hit on that there. The 5th as a whole, we always got to pay our respects to the 11th, the 7th, the 6th, but the 5th is in those conversations every time. There's nobody who talks about best regions in the state of Kentucky, and the 5th is not brought up because it's consistency. Coach, we have a lot of great athletes in the 5th region, and one of them is Brighton Close, signed to go play at the D1 level at Louisville, a top 25 program, ACC, a household program. Coach Jeff Brom, it's a place you want to be as a football player. So the opportunity to play there is insane, man. So kind of speak about Brighton and him as a player. I know you mentioned to me backstage, and I think you even mentioned on the show about how good of a leader he is. But tell me about his impact. Not just we all know him as the football player, but on the basketball floor, man, he's such a beast. So talk to me a little bit about Brighton.
First of all, you got to talk about how good of a kid he is. Great parents, man. The kid's a 4.0. Literally played through a torn labrum last year just to try to help us, keep winning ball games. And this summer, the years prior, I've said it publicly and I've said it privately. I was wrong on him. I was wrong. The kid can play. And this summer so far, and even last year, I mean, he'd score 2 points a game, but he'd had 5 blocks and 10 rebounds, and that's just what he does. But he's a tremendous leader. He is one of the best leaders I've ever been around. And I'm really hoping this year he gets to showcase that because, like I mentioned earlier, I watched Mark Pope's system last year and what he did with Amari Williams. I'm not saying Brighton's going up and dunking on people and doing all that. Like, he knows his limitations, but the way that Amari Williams passed, that's how Brighton's doing it right now. He's picking defense apart because he's 6'7", right? So when you get it to him, no Tay Kenny right there. I didn't mean to say 6'7". But he just oversees, and today he would have been really helpful against PRP on that press, just be able to find the open man. And he said after our first 2 games at Southern, he was like, Coach, I want to average more assists than our guards this year. That's what he said in the locker room. And I'm praying, God willing, he stays healthy this year and gets to showcase his full abilities. He's worked so hard for it. I'm so happy he's got a Division I scholarship. I won't have to pay a dime to go to a top 25 program, and you don't know how bad it pains me to have to post a Louisville picture, but I'll do it for him. But just a tremendous kid. I will be so sad to see him go, but we're gonna make it fun while he's here.
No, for sure. And, a little bit of shout out and love to Taylor Kinney, Kentucky kid. Just got a Miami offer and an NC State offer yesterday, pulling in 2 ACC offers from 2 of the hottest coaches in the country. It's cool to see Taylor doing his thing. Coach, Cooper Stone, we mentioned we talked about him a little bit when we talked to Coach Bryce. When we talked about Bryce. He's a killer. He's a beast, man. And my favorite thing about Cooper Stone is I said it last year when I talked to his dad, coaches, people. It's like he plays like a 10-year NBA veteran point guard. He is so smart. You can teach the bag work, you can teach the dribbles, but you can't really teach intangibles and IQ. And he plays on defense so above his age. I always said, like I said, plays like he's been playing for 15, 20 years. He is literally Kentucky's Chris Paul, the way he plays. You got a guy like that who can lead the pack. He can play the point guard at such a young age. Talk to me about Cooper Stone, man, because I think at the end of the year, he's already, in my opinion, a household name because of how talented he is. But I think he's really going to put the state on notice. Tell me a little bit about Cooper Stone and what makes him
special. Last
year,
when we had to scout against him, he was number 1 for me in the scouting report. I felt like if we could make it tough on him, wear him down throughout the game, we could do some things. And we did do that, right? We held him to 4 points, and he fouled out. But then you see how much he meant, right? So, this year, being able to coach him, it makes everything so much easier. Give him the ball, clear it out, let him go. And I think initially during the summer, he was trying to fit in, right? Like, I'm going to get all the guys the ball, and I'm going to pass. To the point where our guys are on the bench like, dude, you averaged 16 points last year. Would you please shoot the ball? Like, our kids are saying, I don't have to. Our kids are saying that. Yeah. And, and he started taking on that role a little bit more. I think last week he averaged around 18, which is about where we need him to be. So another tremendous kid, man. He just works hard. He works so hard. Defensively, he gets down. He just gets in your chest. He's frustrating. People want to fight him every game just because he's up in you. But he don't say much either, man. And, I try to get into him, light into him a little bit, and he just sit there and look at you. I'm like, are you even listening? But he just takes it in, and he's a coach's dream. You've got to have a point guard, and the good thing for him is we've got Griffin Hines too, right? So it doesn't always have to be him bringing the ball up the floor. Griffin done it for 30 games for us last year. And, we were playing Bardstown in the opening round last week, and Griff got a rebound and immediately passed it to Cooper. And I'm like, I yelled, I'm like, what are you doing, man? You bring the ball up the floor. Cooper will go down, so they're trying to figure out. Like I said, we just got Griff back this week. So they're still trying to figure it out. But tremendous kid, tremendous leader, super excited to coach him. He will make us better for sure.
Yeah. Coach, I talked to you. This was a question I really wanted to hit on. H&W Dukes is sponsoring today's show. And, I know that place means a lot to you. You're not just a coach. You got a life outside of basketball. Whether if it's your kids, they're going to be names we'll be talking about in the future about basketball. I got to talk to one of them at WKU Team Camp, dude. He's electric. I enjoy talking to him. But, there's a life to Josh Kays outside of just a clipboard and coaching basketball. So kind of tell us about Josh Kays outside of the 5th region Taylor County head coach. I know you love Kentucky basketball. Kind of tell us about yourself.
Yeah, I've been married for, this is going on 11 years now, 2014. Me and my wife have been together since 2010. We went to Nelson County High School together. Harrison's the one you talked to. He's my oldest, 9 years old. He is ate up with this. He had a game today at 5:00, and he plays again on Friday, and he's going to be a ball player. I'm proud of him. He works hard, but he has no choice, man. Think about the guys he's been around while at Taylor County. Jackson Wise started out, that was my first year here. Jackson Wise, Mason Guffey, Lakin Lyons, Kobe Colvin. You just go on down the line of the guys he's been around. Even at Thomas Nelson, he was with Braden Smith, Andrew Hogan, Torian King, all those, Riley. He has no choice but to figure it out. And, I try to stay away and be a dad. I've learned that a little bit more and just let other people take him and work with him. And, and then I've got 2 little girls. I've got a 5-year-old Sterling and a 2-year-old, almost 3 in Anniston. So we're busy. You can't do anything without support at home, man. And, the biggest thing for me was last year my wife just load them up and bring them. You know, like they're just coming to the games. That's just what we do now. So, you know, but you know, basketball don't pay the bills. We don't do it for money. We do it for the love of it and love of the kids. And I'm a blessed guy because I get to go to work every day at a place that truly cares about other people. And that's from ownership down. Sean is a tremendous boss to work for. He cares about you. He cares about your family. You know, and we've got core values, and what's our first one is faith and family. And he means it. If your family is doing something, you take off work and you go. You know, and it's just been a blessing to me. I've been there for going on 3 years now, but was in the industry. I've been in the industry for a while, just with H&W for 3. But most of the coaches I coach against buy from me, and I think that's one of the coolest things in the world. Relationships run deep, and you know, it's not just me at H&W. We got a whole team. You know, I've got a coordinator that does a lot of stuff while I'm out or doing basketball. So I'm blessed to be able to wear H&W on my chest and then take that shirt off and put Taylor County on my chest. And you know, it's just I'm a blessed guy. I've done a lot in my life I didn't think I would. I'm in a position now where I never thought I would be in, while my family's thriving and we're going to all my kids' stuff, and it's just it's a blessing, man. I give all the praise to obviously the Most High. So you know, basketball isn't everything for me. This is going to stop one day. You know, I'm gonna hand it over to somebody else that gets lucky enough to take that seat at this school. You know, but by that time, I'm hoping. You know, I don't ever talk about region victories or state championships, because I truly believe if you do the right things by those kids, that's going to come. You know, that's with kids with me and without me, and you know, that aren't with us, that were with us. You know, I want the best for everybody. So now don't get it wrong. I got a competitive edge about me, and I want to win. But you know, we've got to think outside of that sometimes.
You know, for sure, Coach. You know, you've mentioned a few times during this show already having a lot of coaching friends. You told me Coach Boo is one of your closest friends. Same with Mays. You know, we all in some type of business or industry, we go to guys to talk to sometimes. We go to guys for maybe some influence, some inspiration from. Who are some of those coaching friends that you get to have these conversations with, you lean to sometimes? Sometimes you ask for advice. Who are some of them, you know, in the Kentucky State realm? You know, you mentioned Boo, Mays. Who are some other guys?
I'll go, you know, me and Brad Greenwell talk all the time. You know, me and Brad, I actually coached his son that's now in high school in AAU way back when. So we've been together for a while. We've been close. You know, me and Woodson, Coach Woodson at Washington County, we talk all the time. You know, there's a guy that buys from me that, you know, we jot ideas off of each other. I've got tremendous respect for Coach Irv. You know, I worked on him for 2 years, and you know, I seen what he did, and got tremendous respect for him. I'll go outside of the region, though. You know, I mean, I've already mentioned Tavon, and but David Hicks at Fairdale, he's the former coach. He's the former coach now. He's the AD, but lifelong friend. I always call him just when I need an unbiased opinion, because he's not down here, right? So him and Coach Unseld at Warren Central were real close. Somebody that's not in the basketball realm himself, but has been, and his wife's in it, is Brian Courtney. Amber Courtney is his wife at E-Town, and he's been in it. He's just tremendous all around guy. So a lot of guys that I get to work with on a daily basis through my business, also become lifelong friends. You know, so I've got a lot of people to bounce off ideas off of. You don't want your circle too big, though, right? So, you know, you got to narrow it down a little bit, but just I've got great respect for everybody that does this because of how hard it can be.
You know, Coach, when the show's getting closer to the end, I like to play this little game called Quick Questions. We ask some things that, you know, can be an easy response, or maybe you go in and talk a little bit about. And I kind of want to start it off with this. You know, you've been around basketball for a long time. You've coached a lot of good players, but you've also had to go up against a lot of great players. You know, going up against these opposing teams, maybe even as a player, you don't have to answer all these questions as a coach. Who are some of the top players, you know, whether if it's ranked, offers wise, just maybe don't even have an offer, they just killed? Who are some of those top players you've ever went? I want you to answer that you've went against as a player, and then who you had to coach against. Who is one of those or multiple of those top players?
When I played, who I went against was Aaron Cosby. I don't know if you remember that name, but he played at J-Town, and they won the state title either the year he was there or the year after. But he went to Seton Hall and played there for a little bit, but he was tremendous. When I was at Thomas Nelson, a cool one that sticks out to me is Zion Harmon when he was at Marshall County, and we went down there and actually won that game. And but he was tremendous. I mean, first play of the game, he shoots it right beside where I'm standing on the sideline. He looks at me, he hits it obviously, and he says, "It's gonna be a long day for you all." And we ended up winning that game. So that was a cool moment for me, but to go against him was tremendous. Recently, man, I'm gonna tell you when we played Reese Davidson, he was a dog. But man, there's so many that you could go. Brett Decker was a joy to watch. The one I got to coach, excluding my guys that I've got now or I've had, was Andrew Mason. That guy was with us at Thomas Nelson for a couple of years and then transferred to Bardstown his senior year. He's at Rogers State right now, and he was at the Hoop Fest, and he is tremendous. So a lot of guys. I mean, Gabe Wise at Washington County, Bo Baker. I mean, but the fifth region is loaded every year, man. I mean, I could go every year and say somebody else. So, it was really Javon Smith, who plays at Campbellsville right now. He was a terror to guard. No, there's been a lot that I've got to coach against. There'll obviously be some more this year, but man, there's been a blessing to watch them and then just coach against them. It's been great.
No, for sure. When we talk about fan bases, when we talk about bar stools, when we talk about pep sections, Kentucky's got them all, dude. And they've got some elite ones. You've definitely had to coach in some hard situations, some hard places. So kind of a similar question to the last one. Place you've played in, hardest place. What's the hardest place you've ever had to coach at? And then what's the hardest place you've ever had to play at? Because we all know the fan bases in this state are insane.
Coaching at was Adair County's pretty tough when it gets packed in there. It gets loud and it's a great environment. But the one that's always real tough too is Campbellsville, just because of the layout and they're right on top of you. They can hear everything you say. So that's a pretty cool environment. My favorite gym in the whole region is the Roby Dome. I love Marion County's gym. But playing against the Bardstown Nelson County rivalry when we were in school, it was every time I had a mustache in school. Like I had a mustache and I had the line beard and all that. And so every time I got the ball, they would say something or boo or do anything, something like that. So it was Bardstown. But another environment that gets really crazy and tough to win at is Bethlehem with that small gym, and it gets right on top of you. So some really cool environments we have here.
No, you mentioned Campbellsville, Marion County, and the history those gyms have, and then the kind of aesthetic and the way they're built. It's crazy to play there, man. And I can't imagine coaching at Campbellsville because you're right. It feels like they're basically on you. Favorite college coach. You talk a lot about. We talked about Mark Pope multiple times, but who is your favorite college coach? Maybe a guy you just enjoy seeing on the sideline. Maybe a guy you take some of his plays from. You like to watch. Who is your favorite college coach? And then, through the years, who has been one of your favorite college basketball players to watch and experience?
Favorite college coach, I'm probably going to get hated on this a little bit, but Bill Self, one of my, he's the biggest Adidas coach, but Kansas is always fun to watch year in, year out. I love the style though of Nate Oates of just getting up and down and shooting a ton of threes, right? So that's what I've always done. Obviously, Calipari, man, like that's what I grew up with, Cal at Kentucky, and I think Pope does a tremendous job. Recently, the college basketball player the most that I've enjoyed, honestly, was the De'Aaron Fox Malik Monk here at Kentucky. That was stupid good. Malik Monk's probably one of my favorite all time to come through Kentucky. Non-Kentucky player though, I don't know if you remember this name, but Terrence Williams when he was at Louisville. He was really, really good. Rajon Rondo, right? Like, I mean, you can go on and on, but I'm gonna tell you this: I have never been I just love Tay Kenny, and it's not because of his social media presence, but the way that guy plays basketball. I pray every day he don't put on that red and white, because he is one of my favorite athletes to watch. But man, you talk about a high school player that I just love. We were actually up in Indy for AAU this summer. I think it was in April. And he was playing Phenom United, like 15 minutes down the road. We loaded up all the kids. We went and watched him play. He signs autographs for everybody. Such a good kid. So, no, definitely high school. He's one of my favorite.
No, it's crazy to see how Talon being like 6'6'1", is able to fly. I mean, he is truly an insane athlete, tough shot maker. Seeing him sign with Adidas, that was pretty cool. Kind of be one of the faces of the brand. I know you hope he obviously doesn't go to Louisville playing Kentucky, but dude, where whoever gets him, man, I mean, that is a blessing of a player. Coach, right now, the NBA Finals is in full swing. Tell us about the NBA a little bit, because now it feels like maybe it sucks, but not as many people's tuning into the NBA. And, there's some people who will always be college basketball day one. So that's how I am. But, kind of tell me about growing up in the NBA. Kind of tell me about some of the guys that you watched, how you feel about it. And I don't know how active you are into it right now, but the Thunder lead 3-2. Who's winning that series? But kind of tell me about the NBA to you, how you grew up watching it, and like kind of some of your favorite guys.
Yeah, see, I didn't ever get to watch Jordan in his prime, right? Like I'm 33 years old, so I seen him at the Wizards, and that's not something I would tell my son about. So like, mine was Kobe to start out, and then it transferred into LeBron, who I'm a big fan of, and now it's just changed so much, watching Shea and Jalen J-Dub. I mean, he's tremendous, and with Tyrese Halliburton and what he does. I actually got to go to the game 2 in Oklahoma City. Okay. We were out there for work last weekend, and we stayed right across the arena. So I actually went. Me, Sean, we went, and it was really fun. I've heard them talking on the radio, though. The ratings are really bad right now for the finals. And I don't know if that's because Shea's not a huge household name yet. Tyrese is a superstar, but he's not a LeBron. He's not Giannis. He's not none of those guys. I don't watch it much during the regular season. More college basketball. I watch college basketball all day. But when it gets to the finals, man, when they really start playing defense, and you can tell when they're not playing defense. I mean, you watch an All-Star game, they're playing defense in the regular season, but it's not as intense as it is right now. I think OKC wins it. I think Game 4 was pivotal. When they went down there and stole that one in Indy, I was like, well, they're going to go back and win this one. It could go Game 7, but I still think OKC will pull it out. I just think they're the better team. And now with Halliburton's injury, a strained calf, that's really going to end up hurting them. But Indiana, I love the way they play too, man. They get up and go, and they just never stop coming. I've been intrigued by it. I love it when it gets to this time, but more of a college guy.
Yeah, me for sure. I have to shout out the man. He's my boss. You talk about Sean. Taylor Hicks. Taylor has already left 5 or 6 comments in the section tonight. He's tuning in. I think he just commented like 5 fire emojis, and then he said, "Josh, what's up?" So shout out Taylor tuning in, man. A lot of red in the chat, a lot of Cardinals fans. I see Cooper just tuned in. Daryl's watching. So shout out to all the Taylor County community tuning in. Coach, you mentioned it earlier, talking about that game against Greene County last year in region, how fun it was to coach. What are some of the favorite games you've ever coached in as a coach? And then obviously, like we've been doing vice versa, played in as a player. What are some of those games that hold a special kind of moment?
I'll start coaching first. Obviously, I mentioned it. We got it was during COVID. We got invited to Marshall County Hoop Fest. Thomas Nelson, they had a team drop out. We were just now starting to become pretty good. We went down there, and it was a cool day because I got to watch Andrew Mason scores 1,000-point the game before us with Bardstown, and then we played Marshall County. And I've been in this long enough. You don't invite teams that you don't think you can beat, right? So we went down and actually won on their home court. So that was one of the cool, not environment-wise. There wasn't a ton of people there, but we beat them there. And I was listening to the radio on the way back, and all we did was shoot threes at that time. Terry Birdsong was their coach. And he's like, well, I didn't know they could shoot this well. He had like 14 that night. But that was one of the coolest ones. That Greene County will not be top, though, in the region. When we walked, the game before was over. I can't even remember who played before us. Bethlehem and North Harbor. And they cleared the gym. So our boys got like an hour and 10 minutes before they, they're going back there getting ready, listening to music. And me and Coach Hagan walked to those doors on the back of the Roby Dome. And we look outside, and it's traffic all the way down. And then we look at 30 minutes, and the traffic's still there. They're still rolling in. And we obviously knew when the draw came out that was going to be the most talked about game, right? So, but I'm so blessed it went the way it did, besides us losing. But the kids really got showcased, right? Like Hayden Blakeman and Jaden Marr and, those guys really put on a show. And then, Lakin went for 32 or something like that, was tremendous. And Dave put on a show. And, Carter Wise got in at the end of the game, had a chance to put back in, and Lane hit a couple, was good that game. So just all around, I've got the picture on my profile on Twitter of Bryce hit a 3 in the corner, and we went up to it at that point with like 4 minutes to go. But it was just blow after blow after blow after blow, and just tremendous talent. So that one will never be top. Now, the the district championship at Adair this year was really intense. They led most of the game by double figures, and then we got it down to 1 with about 3 minutes to go, and that place was rocking. So the fan support, man, at Taylor County is ridiculous. They'll show up. They love their basketball. So those are a couple, but that Greene County region game will never be topped in my opinion. I hope it is. I hope I'm coaching at Rupp one day. But man, that atmosphere when you can sell out the Roby Dome and people are waiting, trying to get in. We got off the bus. I mean, we were an hour and 30 minutes early, man. We were there early. I wanted them to watch the game before. There was already a line. I'm like, guys, you don't really get now. We played in that Court 14 event too this year up at Woodford County.
Yeah.
And we pulled in coming off their new school, and that line was wrapped around. Obviously, Jasper was coming down with Tay and all them. So people want to get a good seat for that, but we played well that night too. So really cool. And, you don't get some of these by not coaching at a place like Taylor County. They want to be in the event. They want Taylor County in the event because they know the fans will travel. We've always got good players. So I'm ready to take these boys this year, and we're in the White Greer Maggard. We're playing in the Court 14 event again. So I'm ready to take my boys and we're going to go battle. So it may look a little different, but nothing changes. The standard is a standard. So
yeah. You've talked so much about Taylor County today, and we got to, coaching at a program like that. When you talk about, we've mentioned it today, and I think it's not all just about having one standout program, whether if it's your basketball team, your baseball team, when you talk about what's one of the best programs in high schools in the state, they got to have consistency in all the sports. Taylor County is one of those schools. We talked about that, but, this isn't really a quick question. This is just kind of repeating on something you said. How much does a packed house, a sold-out crowd, and a fan base mean to a coach and his team? How impactful is that in the
It's
game,
everything.
Coach?
I mean, the kids feed off of it. Those runs, you get on a big run and the crowd's into it. It's everything. And for high school athletes, I think I wish every gym would be sold out. But it was funny because it's hard to sell at our gym, right? It's huge. The atmosphere is crazy. We play one game a year at the middle school, the old high school. And it's always packed. It's always sold out almost. So we do a district game this year. It'll be against Adair County, I think. So, we'll be playing them there. But I'm telling you, man, it is everything. And all the kids deserve, not just Taylor County kids, all the kids deserve a packed crowd. High school sports is hard too. You start getting into the financial sides of things, man. And some of these schools rely on that gate money. So from the community. So you need to show. It was funny. We had to add North Laurel at the end of our season this past year. It was on a Saturday. We played Barron the night before. And I was like, that'll be a good opponent for us to get ready for the district. And we roll in. There's like 7 people in the whole gym. I'm like, maybe people forgot we played. We hadn't put it out. But it got packed as it went. But I'm telling you, like, that's the first thing that goes through your coach's mind is like, okay, guys, you've got to create your own energy today. And when you don't have to do that and the crowd's behind you, man, it's everything. That's what makes it so special, right? Like, boys, they grew up in the system. They put Taylor County on their chest, wherever their respective schools are. They put Taylor County on their chest from second grade on. We run our own youth league. So these kids are in Taylor County the whole way. And then they get to the high school, and they've got all those people that have been cheering for them and help them sponsor and things like that. I mean, it's everything.
Lakin Lons, we've mentioned his name a few times. He's going to play at center. He was a heck of a basketball talent in the high school level. I think he's got a lot of potential to kill at that D3 level, maybe move up as the ranks go on, stay at center, kill. His future is going to be great, whatever it is. I know he's tuning in, so that's why I really wanted to talk about Lakin. Talk about coaching a guy like him, a guard like similar to Cooper Stone, who we mentioned, who can control the game but be just such a great all-around person and player. He's a dual sport athlete playing baseball. How much of a joy was it to coach a guy like Lakin Lons?
So I started coaching him in the 8th grade. Or freshman year, his freshman year, his freshman summer. He played Manimal for me. And, back then it was all layups. He was just a dog. He would tremendous defender, would still be in passing lanes, would get 20 a game, and it'd be layups and steals, right? And then as his high school career went on, he shot 40% or higher from 3. So, the way, but he worked every single day. He is, he had growing surgery. He was really hurt one year and played through it. That's just what he does. And then you got it healthy, and you could see the player he was this year. He over 2,500 points, over 600 rebounds, what he meant to Taylor County basketball will forever hold a special place in everybody here. Tremendous kid, always laughing, always joking, never take nothing serious. You sometimes get mad, like, dang, man, we're in practice. We got a big game coming up. But you always knew he was going to show up, right? So we had a game this year. He played through the flu. And, I'm on him just as hard, and he ends up with 22. And I'm like, how do you do that? He was exhausted, didn't show up to practice for 3 days in a row after that, and then plays again on Friday and has 25. And I'm just like, but it's just him, and what he accomplished was amazing. And then you talk about his baseball, right? He hit the walk in to go in, to advance in the state tournament. When I started knowing Lakin, he was a Division I baseball player. Everybody said, "Oh, he's going Division I baseball," but his sport was basketball. He loves basketball, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. He had higher offers than center, but he wanted to find the right fit. Loved Coach Root and Mason, and I agree with you, man. They've got high expectations for him. I would not be shocked if he don't go up there and start year one for what he's put in, and I know he's putting in the work now. So super proud of him if he's watching. I owe him a great deal of gratitude, because he is a tremendous kid and a tremendous, the thing that gets overlooked with him is how close he became with my son, and that means a lot to me. He don't have to talk to Harrison. Harrison was 6 years old when he met him, but he always made him feel welcome, and as most of our kids do. Yeah. And, that goes longer than bouncing at basketball. So he's going to make it wherever he wants in life, man. He's a tremendous kid, and I hope he gets honored the way he should in 10, 15 years. So.
For sure. Coach, only 2 more questions to roll this out. You've been around Kentucky basketball talent for probably over 20 years now, even longer than that, growing up in the state, playing against it. Kentucky recently, we mentioned Taylor Kinney, Malachi Moreno, Jasper Johnson Ball. Yes, some of them branched out, maybe went prep, played at another league. Homegrown Kentucky talent right now, man, is busting out of, the doors. It's everywhere. Tyron Stokes is his name I didn't even mention. There's talent everywhere, even the guys who haven't left. We just sent 16 or 17 guys Division I from last year's class, and not to count the ones going D2, JUCO, D3. There's so many college athletes, especially at the Division I level. What makes today's Kentucky talent different than maybe in the past? And is there more, or was just or is there more now? Obviously, there is more now than other past years, but do you think maybe the social media is what's kind of helped get some of those names out there? Do you think there was maybe some guys maybe in the past who had that talent, but, were underlooked due to social media not being as big, people not coming to games? How's the Kentucky talent different from today than it previously was?
Yeah, I think social media plays a big part in everything, right? Like, when we made this team for KBC and we had Austin, like he's got like 15,000 followers on Instagram. And then you go look at Tay Kinney, and he's got like 300 something, and Tyron Stokes, who's tremendous. Kentucky's always been heavy talented basketball players, in my opinion. Even when my dad was growing up, he was talking about, the Travis Fords, the Richie Farmers, and all those guys, but there was not social media, right? Like they would be, I go back to what would John Wall make in the NIL era? And then I take it to high school, and I'm like, what would a Aaron Cosby, like I mentioned earlier, or some of those other players come through in the NIL, or what would they do? So I love it. I think they should get paid. I hope high school kids get paid one day, because they're putting a product on the floor that people come to pay to watch, right? So I do think social media is the biggest part, and it makes it easier for coaches to recruit, man, really. Like, they just log on their Instagram, watch the highlights, follow their Twitter, and boom. Like, we put out something, Kentucky Basketball Club put out something about Bryce because Marshall had inquired about him. And it was like immediate, boom, 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 follow Liberty, Wright State, boom. That's just how it works right now. So, it's pretty cool. And then I think you get on the EYBL and how many of our kids are on EYBL and 3SSB and the UA circuit, now Puma. Like, we feed Indiana Elite, man. Like, they've had a ton of Kentucky kids that have taken their program to where it is now. So I'm not taking anything away from Indiana kids. I'm just saying Travis Perry's and Marinos and things like that. We help other states get better. So talent's always going to be here. This is a basketball state, and I agree with you 100%. Social media is everything.
Yeah. Coach, ultimately the fan base and the reception Taylor County has given you is, I would assume, from what I've seen, has been amazing. But I'm sure there's other private messages, people talking to you at games that have been just great to you. The Taylor County community and even just fans from across the state really tuned in to watch the show tonight. I know at one point we were over 1,000 live people watching. So, give a shout out to those that are tuning in who support Josh Kays, support Taylor County, and kind of just get those fans amped up. Tell us about where you guys will be playing at Lexington Catholic a little bit before that, but just kind of leave us off with something nice and talk to that.
Yeah, I mean, they're everything, man. It's not always nice messages, but I think last year, when we went through some waves, right? Like, and I stood my ground on some stuff, and I just, it's amazing. One day we were playing, and I look up, and they're like, "Hey, the whole board is here watching," and that just makes you feel good because this is a great job. And we give shout outs all the time. And, you look at our sports year in review, and I think they just put it out on Facebook today. And, I think a guy that deserves major credit that I get to work with daily is Greg Oliver, right? Like, I don't know if he's watched or not, but just the work he puts in for us coaches and what he does for us on a daily basis and how he cares about the kids. And, he deserves a shout out. But, and ultimately, he hired me for this job. So it was, I'm blessed. I tell them all the time, man, when we got beat by Greene County in the region, I went and shook everybody's hand that was still there. I think it plays a huge part in doing that. And with my job, like I get to talk to a ton of people through Taylor County throughout the day. So I'm super blessed to be here, super blessed for the fan base that we have. It's always been there, and I hope to grow that. We'll put a product on the floor that people like because, like I told you at Western Kentucky, we're not going nowhere. We're not going nowhere. We're going to work and we're going to be there. And, Lexington Catholic's coming up and we play at Scott County Scott County High School the first 2 days. We play Bourbon and a team out of Ohio. And then we're right behind Rupp. We play in that nice church right there for the second day. So I'm excited for my kids to go up there and put on a show. And we're going to do what we do, man. We're going to grind every day. And we'll put a product on the floor that people like. And that's all they want. They just want to see our boys work hard, and just have fun. And we play a fun style of basketball you've watched. So don't want to make it about me. Just want to tell everybody thank you, because this is a whole community deal here. So extremely grateful for you and what you've done for high school basketball. We've been long overdue for this. You do a tremendous job. Our kids love seeing you pull up the game. I think the biggest smile I seen from Fernandez on before we played them was seeing you. And it matters to them, man. It matters to them. They all want to play college basketball, and you're a big help in that. So I can't thank you enough for all you do for our athletes around the state, and especially for my boys at Taylor County. So just keep doing what you're doing.
I appreciate you, Coach. It's not going nowhere, and we're going to have a lot more shows like this. We're going to have Coach Kays on the show again this season, probably more than just once. But, Coach, I promised you we talked for about 25 to 30 minutes. We went for an hour and 10 minutes, so my bad if I've held you a little too long. I know you said you locked your door. I'm sure your kids are wanting to see you, so I won't hold you too much longer, man. Coach Kays, Taylor County is in a really good positive direction right now. They're winning games. They're competing at a high level. Lexington Catholic's going to be some big-time tests for them. I'm excited to see them. Coach, I appreciate you coming on here tonight, man. If there's anything else you want to say before we head off here, the floor is yours.
No, just thanks for everybody for tuning in. I know people were excited. I kept getting messages. So, no, just extremely grateful for you, man. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks. Coach Kays, I'll talk to you again soon, man. Thanks
Absolutely,
for coming
man.
on. Big thanks to Coach Josh Kays of Taylor County for jumping on the show tonight. Held him a little longer than I wanted to. Held him a little longer than I expected, but I'm glad we did it. I actually said that backwards. I probably didn't want to hold him that long. He probably didn't want to be on here that long, but I wanted to talk to him for a long time tonight. Big thanks to Coach Josh Kays for coming on tonight, making this show special, talking to me for over an hour, talking all things Taylor County hoops, but not just Taylor County, but his history. What makes Coach Josh Kays special, what he's been through, adversity he's faced, coaching at different locations, why he coaches at the AAU level, some of his favorite moments. I love playing that little quick questions game. You get to figure out a lot about coaches. But no, I really appreciate everybody for tuning into the show tonight. It was a great show. We recently passed over 3,000 followers on Twitter. Really grateful for that. We're at 53,000 followers on Facebook. We're at over 2,000 followers on Instagram. And then we have our Joe Show pages that are doing really well right now too. So I really appreciate all the love and support. A lot of family, a lot of parents tuning in tonight. So I want to plug our Next Up Recruits basketball camp. Next Up Recruits camp is by far the #1 Kentucky basketball exposure camp. Over 2,000 kids have went to play college. Over 10 in the NBA, stints in the NBA, G League teams, things like that. Been drafted. So I really highly recommend it. The charge is $150, but it's an all-day event from 10 to 6 o'clock. There's a top 40. Top 20 all-star game. You're going to be playing in front of NAI, D2, D3, JUCO coaches from not just Kentucky, but from surrounding areas. So you're going to have a chance to put your product and your talent out there in front of coaches, every scouting service in the state. And you might say, well, Division I coaches can't tune in. These scouting services write content and talk to these D1 coaches. They will relay information. So you're going to have the opportunity to go out and perform in front of those things. I know some people might be in rough situations right now. Hey, registration doesn't end until September 6th. We're going to continue to pour out content. We got some more graphics we have to post. We've had more signups today. We've had more people tune in and say, we'll be at the camp. So we're going to be promoting it more and posting about it more. Next Up Recruits has been absolutely life-changing to me. So let's change some other kids' lives. Let's put them out here. Let's find some kids who might need to be discovered. Let's find some hidden gems. Let's put these kids out in front of coaches and scouts and make them something special. And let's have the special kids tune in and continue to, inspire some of these younger guys, play in front of these younger guys, maybe play against another kid who's like, hey man, I'm just as good. And they go out there and they get into it and they both play great games. So Next Up Recruits Camp, September 13th at Asbury University. All the registration and all the posts are under nextuprecruits.com and also on Next Up Recruits Twitter page. Myself, Taylor Hicks, and Lavelle Martin have all posted about it on Facebook, and on Instagram it's up there. So you have the opportunity to go sign up and register for it. Highly recommend it. It is the best camp in the area, man. And I don't say that just because I'm with Next Up Recruits. The people that they have produced at the next level, the guys that they have found early, the people who's played here and then went on to play at the next level, it's uncomparable. It's unbeatable. So I just want to shout out our camp real quick. But yes, once again, go sign up for that camp, man. Go. That is a must-attend camp, and I hope everybody watching right now goes, signs your kid up, puts them out there. I'll be there all day. I'm happy. I'm going to be able to talk to some parents, see some people from all around the state that I don't get to see all the time. So I really appreciate everybody tuning in tonight's show, though. Go sign up for camp. Leave a like, follow, share. I thank you all so much. I'm really blessed. God bless everybody tuning in. We might do another show before Collins. I can't say it Collins, but Lexington Catholic this weekend. I'm honestly looking forward to it, hoping to do it. I'd like to get some other coaches on here before that happens because that's a big-time event, man. But I really want to say thank you to everybody who made today's show special, those who supported it, those who share it, those who said, hey, man, tune in. So without further ado, let's end off this show, man. Big shout out to everybody who tuned in. Have a great rest of your night.